Hello students, and welcome to another Premiere Pro tutorial. First, we're going to be covering how to balance audio and music. Okay, and this is basically going to set us up to do our last part of this whole project, which is to get everything ready for exporting, and that will be covered on another day. So let's jump right into Premiere. So to start us off, I wanted to bring in something that we could work with here just to get the feel of something that has both video and audio. And everything I had before I didn't have any audio in the timeline, but today I do, okay, because I think it's really important for me to show you guys how to mix audio together, because most of your videos is going to have some audio with the sound of the interviews or the actors that you got with the camera, and then you're also going to have audio that you are using as music. So probably going to have two different tracks going on here. Just as an example for an interview, I actually went on YouTube and I was able to find a really cool old interview with Bruce Lee. And I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but this is just I thought it was really cool. And let's take a watch.
You still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as North American?
You know what I want to think of myself? As a human being. Because I mean, I don't want to sound like, as Confucius say, but under the sky, under the heaven, man, there is but one family. It just so happened, man, that people are different.
Okay, we got to go. Thank you, Bruce Lee, for coming here. Thank you for
Pierre.
watching.
Thank you.
I think that Bruce Lee is such a cool, charismatic individual, and I love what he was saying there about everyone is just different. And I just thought that was really cool. So this is kind of a really neat piece of footage for us to play around with, or just for me to show you guys as an example. And so you can see here I've got both a video in the video track, and then on the audio track I have the audio, and that came in together. And so what I want to do now is basically blend this in with some music, but first I want to show you something very important, and this is something that you're going to have to monitor for every single track that you have. You're going to want to go onto, right now we're on effects controls, and I showed you guys a little bit about effects controls, but to look at your audio, you want to switch over here in this panel to audio clip mixer. Okay, so the audio clip mixer is really cool. We're going to stretch it out here, and it's showing us all of our audio tracks. And if we play back, you will see what is happening.
Do you still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as...
So right here we've got our audio track 1. It's showing us what's in A1. A1, you see it matches. And so whenever we bring in some music, that's going to pop up here in A2. So if we play this, take a look at what's happening right here.
North American.
You can see that the sound or the audio comes up and it goes from this green area into like a yellow area. And if it comes up too high, it'll actually come into a red, it'll have like a little red line that pops up.
You know what I want to think of myself?
So do you see how it actually starts bleeding into that red area? So that red area is a no-no. And it may sound good on like headphones or something, or on the computer, but later on when it gets played back, it's just not going to sound good. Whenever you see audio, anything in one of these audio tracks that's bleeding into the red, that means you're going to have what's called clipping. And clipping is really bad. It just sounds really bad and distorted, and it just has kind of like a kind of a sound. So what you want to do is on each of these tracks, you have what's called a fader switch, and what we can do is bring it down. And as you can see here, as I bring down this fader, you can see it's giving us a decibel reading. So I like to keep mine, honestly, it just depends on the video that you bring in. Different videos will have different volumes, and especially if you recorded your scenes with the microphone being far or near. And so you're really just going to want to do this kind of objectively. I like to do it by ear a lot of times, but you just want to make sure that you're kind of staying in the green to the yellow area.
As a human being. Because I mean, I don't want to sound like, as Confucius say.
So somewhere about right there is probably pretty good. As long as you're not hitting into the red, you should be fine. Okay? So that's the first part, is you want to make sure none of your tracks are clipping. And then secondly, I want to show you how to balance music. I've got a music file in here ready to go. And I'm going to basically start off the video with this music.
You still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as...
Now, as you can see, my music is even louder than my audio. So that means I'm going to take the fader on A2 and bring it down. And here's just a good general rule of thumb, guys, is you probably want to keep your audio about, I would say, halfway, maybe even one third of what your main audio track is going to be, because you don't want your music to drown out what is happening in the scene, okay, if that makes sense. So let's see how that sounds.
You still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as North American?
That sounds a little better. You can see in this main track, depending on the inflection of their voices, sometimes we'll be in the 16 to 10 to 13 range, and then it'll jump up to this 4 or -1 range. So I'm going to bring down my volume even just a little bit more.
Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as North American?
You know what I want to...
A good trick you can try is actually you can bring your computer volume down about, I would say, maybe to 10%. And what that's going to do is it's basically whatever your music is at, you want to get it to where you can't even hear it, or that you can just barely hear the music track. And then if you can still hear faintly your main audio track of maybe the voices or the voiceover or the actors without barely hearing the music, then that's probably a good indicator that you're somewhere in the right ballpark. So guys, I think this is pretty much good right here.
think of myself as a human being, because I mean, I don't want to sound like, as Confucius say, but under the sky, under the heaven, man, there is but one family. It just so happened, man, that people are different.
So that sounds pretty darn good. I just put some default transitions there on the beginning and the end, and let's see how that sounds.
You still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think...
So that sounds pretty good. I'm liking the way that sounds, okay? So it's just about making smart choices and having everything balanced, okay? Now, if you have a music track that you have cut into little pieces, what you're going to have to do is select each one of those pieces and then readjust this knob, because every time you cut in between or you cut into pieces your audio, the fader is going to pop back up for each one of those pieces. So you're going to have to for each individual piece, readjust these faders, okay? So it helps to adjust the whole track at the beginning before you start making edits on your music. But if you did already, that's fine. Okay, I do want to show you one other thing, and I think that a lot of you guys have been wondering how to do this. I'm going to go ahead and expand this just to show you an example. And I have a title here that I've already created, and it's called Sound and Music. I'm going to bring that to the beginning, and let's just see how that sounds. Now, my music doesn't start till a little bit down the road here, so I'm actually going to trim and bring it a little back here. Let's see how that looks.
You still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as North American?
You know what I want to think of myself as a human being.
All right, nice. And another thing you're going to have to watch for is basically if your music has like a beat, or there's a beat that drops and it gets kind of louder, you want to adjust your music for the main part of the music and not just the beginning. So that's another kind of helpful thing to remember. My title comes in, I like that, and then I want it to fade out as well. So I'm going to put another transition.
You still think of yourself Chinese?
And then what I want to do is I want to show you guys how to adjust your music, okay? There's kind of a quick and easy way to the dark side to do this here. You can double click in this space right here to open up your sound so that you can kind of see both left and right. Now, I've already adjusted the volume for the whole track, so I'm pretty much good now to make any slices. I think I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the quick way first. I'm just going to make a slice right here. And what I'm going to do is just bring this piece up just a little bit, and let's see how that looks.
You still think of yourself Chinese, or do you?
And you could even put a transition in between. As long as your clips are actually touching each other in the magnetic timeline, any default transition that you put will actually fade both of them together. Okay, and let's see how that sounds. Maybe we'll bring it up just a little bit more.
You still think of yourself Chinese?
So see how my music starts off kind of not loud, but it starts off at a normal level, and then it fades down into this piece with the softer music. So that's kind of the quick and easy way to do this. If you want to do it a little more sophisticated, then let's go ahead and Command Z everything that I just did here. Here's my one track with the audio adjusted kind of down here at the bottom. And basically what I'm going to do is, you see this line here that's running all the way across? That is basically the same thing as your volume over here. If I raise it up, you'll see that line goes up. If I bring it down over here, then the line goes back down. So what you can actually do is click on this line. I'm sorry, command. You're going to command click. On PC, it should be command, but in the Macs, which is what we're all using, it should be command, if I'm not mistaken. On my computer, it's actually control, but on your computer, it will be command. So you can command click that little line, and what it will do is it will create a point. Now, it's really funny how this works because, and I just readjusted my volume the wrong way, and I want it to go back down, so I'm going to Command Z. So basically, you can command click a point, but with just one point, you can't really do anything. At the most, you're going to need 3 or 4, and I'll show you why. I'm going to go ahead and just put 2. Okay, so here's my 2 points. So what this will allow me to do is raise up the volume, and I want it to be over here maybe around 10 or 13. That was a pretty good volume. And see how between these points I just made a ramp going down? You can bring these points closer together, you can have them spread apart, and basically what that's doing is creating kind of an animation to a volume. So let's see how this sounds.
You still think?
So that was kind of a quick ramp down.
You still think?
And let's play this one more time and take a look at what's happening over here as this animation plays out.
You still think of yourself?
So see how that works, and then I can still readjust it, and then this will do exactly what I'm telling it to do with the fader. So the fader is basically connected to this line depending on where you are on the timeline. And that, guys, is basically about it. That is how you can adjust your sound. Just keep in mind, if you want to do it the quick and easy way, that you want to just make for sure that you're keeping track of all of the different cuts that you make in the audio track, because each of those separate pieces is going to have its own adjustments over here. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let's get to work. God bless.